Hey, that's Brooke. I'm Randy. Matthew is here, and the Cardinals lost 8-0 last night down in Florida, down in Port St. Lucie to the Mets. Cardinals did have 3 hits, so happy birthday, Lucan Baker. He got a hit. He got a hit.
Yes. Congratulations, Lucan. Happy 28th birthday. Sorry, I just had to say that.
No, that was great. And Sonny Gray only allowed 4 runs, so that was good.
You know, it's just spring training. Not
He's
nervous
working
at
on
all.
stuff. Yeah.
I'm not nervous. Randy, are you nervous? Do I look nervous?
Do we look nervous? Yeah, the Hope-O-Meter and we're going to talk later about the Hope-O-Meter at the Athletic, but it's not really showing a lot of optimism on the part of you folks. And you can, if you want to join us, you can go to the YouTube chat and type something in. If you're an optimistic Cardinal fan, we want to find you because only 11.9% of people, according to the Athletic, are optimistic about the Cardinals, and probably half of those are Cubs fans.
Yeah. Oh, Cubs fans. Yes.
Oh, yeah. I'm optimistic about what the Cardinals are going to do.
Exactly. I was not surprised at all to see the Major League Baseball Hope-O-Meter come out, which the Athletic has. They just released it this morning, and the Cardinals were 28th on the list, I believe.
I think we're all the way up to 27th.
Okay, 27th. That's not terrible. You see, I kind of, started a little high there on, where I thought that they would be, but they ended up 27th. I'm not surprised at all. I think one of my favorite comments, if you do have it up, Randy, was I can't remember the person's name because they also put people's names in there about why. Yeah, pessimist. They said they can't even tank properly when talking about the Cardinals.
That was a pessimist Niall. They can't even tank properly. Okay, so we'll get to that. But Yadi spoke to Katie Wu at The Athletic, and he had some interesting things to say. Number one, he and his family have moved from Puerto Rico to Austin, and his son is playing high school baseball in Austin, Texas. And that's where Yadi is spending his time. The reason that he's not with the Cardinals is because he's blocking out time to be with his family. He said, hey, I was in Major League Baseball for 19, 20 years and didn't get a chance to spend time with my family. Well, he's got money now. He doesn't need money. And he wants to spend time with his family. And so that's what he's doing. He's working with his son, who, you listened to Benji last week, of course, he's a catcher. And his son is
trying to
growing.
be a Texas Longhorn.
Yeah. I don't know why he doesn't want to go to MIZ, but hey, he wants to be a Longhorn.
Yeah. Is there a way that Mizzou could maybe try to recruit a little bit harder for Yadi's son? If you're listening, Mizzou baseball, maybe try to recruit a little bit harder because then that gets Yadi a little bit closer to the Cardinals where he could be a manager one day. It's really interesting just reading the comments. And I know that Rockio, if you could pull up some of those that we would be able to read, because I know that we have on our account Sports Hub STL on social media that we have some of those quotes on there. They're all very interesting. Look, Yadi's made it really clear that he wants to be a manager, but the timing has always seemed like an issue. And we should note that he was, what was the title specifically? It's like special.
Special assistant to the president of baseball operations.
It's a really long title. Yeah. And he hasn't fulfilled any of those duties yet. But it's because of what you said that he's focusing right now on family, which he made really clear. I mean, he's had a really long career with the Cardinals, as we know, so he has to catch up with family. His son, obviously pursuing being a catcher himself in college. But I would love to see Yadi around the organization, especially when we have all these young catchers coming up.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have him sharing his wisdom with a young team. And he noted the youth of the team. He said, as you see there, this is the first time this franchise didn't really sign anybody in free agency, right? When fans see something like that, it's weird. It's weird for us as fans right now. I don't want to say they're not competing. That's disrespectful to the players. But as a fan, how are we going to compete this year? He also went on to say the Cardinals have a great manager in Ollie. There are some people that really care and they love to teach. St. Louis has a really good coaching staff. We have great talent on the field. We have some young guys that can really play this game. And he went on to say, I'm going to support the young talent and see what happens. Baseball is crazy. You never know what will happen. And it is weird from the standpoint of a Cardinal fan. It is weird to see them not supplement what they had last year and try to evaluate what they have.
He's not wrong in what he's saying, because this is really weird to see, as you mentioned, and as he said as well, for them not to do anything in free agency. We don't even know what to call this season specifically. We've heard reset, we've heard retool. Now we're in transition where they're giving young players runway, which they kind of technically are. I mean, they tried to move Nolan Arenado, but that didn't work out yet. Of course, they're going to try to still move him at some point during the season, especially leading up the trade deadline. But when you're looking at the starting rotation, that's the part where I'm not seeing how you're able to factor in those young pitchers, which I do want to see. I want to see McGreevy. I want to see Libby get a chance. I want to see even Quinn Mathews at some point. I understand it will take a little bit longer because you don't want to push his timeline, but he is 24 years old. Remember, he pitched at Stanford. He's a little bit more ready to go than some of the other younger pitchers like a Tink Hintz within the organization.
No doubt about it. And so there is the opportunity for the Cardinals to get people into the lineup at a very young age or at a more advanced major league age for a guy like Quinn Mathews. Waterboy checks in on the YouTube chat line. He says, will the front office allow Yadi to save us? Is it a pride issue? Why is communication so hard for this front office? I think there's a couple of things there. Number one, I don't know why the communication is so hard. People are still talking about their end of season press conference and still asking, what was that? But I don't, I think that
at least we had it.
We love Yadi here, but I think sometimes we go overboard in thinking that plugging Yadi into the organization is going to solve the problems. Number one, there's never been a really good manager that didn't have really good players. And the other thing is, there's a couple of things with Yadi. He talked in this article about wanting to come here and teach young players. He never showed a great propensity to do that with the young Cardinal catchers on a regular basis with people like, he liked Tony Cruz and he helped him, but Carson Kelly was going to take his job. Didn't like to help him out. Kisner, he played well when Yadi was out. Didn't really help him out. So there, it was kind of pick and choose for Yadi, for guys that had ability that could have taken his job. I don't think he wanted to help out that much. Right?
Well, you did see in spring training him working with some of those young catchers, and it was great to see him doing that. But we know spring training is extremely short. And then he kind of went to that competitive mode.
Right.
As soon as that season turned on.
Yeah.
And of course, he's kind of just looking out for himself. But with Yadi, I think the other big part of this too is some of the requirements of being a Major League Baseball manager, because I think a lot of people think that, maybe this is like a highly coveted job, and it's great that he says he wants to do this, but some of the responsibilities that come with it, especially the media side,
that was
and we got to deal with Yadi on the media side. He was nothing but nice to me, so I have nothing terrible to say there, but he didn't really like speaking to the media that much. And he would probably say that himself. He's not a big media guy, but I don't know if this interview with Katie Wu, which she did a wonderful job on The Athletic, if this is kind of him opening up the door to show that he will be more open to the media in the future. But you have to talk before the game and after the game, and you're at the ballpark all day long.
Right. Yeah. And Ollie goes overboard in taking care of the media because he talks to the writers and the TV people, TV and radio people separately before the game, and then obviously does his post game. He also has separate meetings with the rights holders. So he's got a meeting with the radio people, a meeting with the TV people, meeting with the writers, meeting with the other electronic media people, and then he's got his post game. There's a lot there that probably we appreciate it, but he probably doesn't need to do. Ollie doesn't need to do as much with the media as he does. But I would sense that Yadi would be, if the 20-year playing career is any indication, I would think that he would be reluctant to do as much as is probably necessary in the state.
And you can't dip out on those media sessions because the Baseball Writers Association will come right after you. Yeah. They're on top of that. That's for sure.
And I think another point now is that, and I don't know at what point the Cardinals will come to grips with this, but with the Hope-O-Meter being at 11.9%, the Cardinals are going to need the media if they want to have help selling tickets. You can market, and it's great to market, but I think for the first time since maybe the 90s, the mid-90s, coming out of that strike and with the new ownership, and it was the end of the Anheuser-Busch ownership, the Cardinals are going to need players to help market their team.
They do need that, and that's when you need to push your younger players forward. And I think that Mason Wynn could be a guy who could be a face of the franchise, but then, bringing in a manager like Molina or like Albert Pujols, that would really sell tickets. Don't you think? Yeah. I mean, you can weigh in on the chat too. And we also have a poll going right now where you can weigh in if you think that you want Yadi to be the manager for the Cardinals or not. You can put yes or no there. And I believe that it's yes by a staggering 73% currently right now on that poll.
Ahead of Albert, huh?
Well, we didn't put Albert on there. Maybe we should do a separate poll too, Rakia, where we could also put, would you rather have Yadi or Albert as the manager? Bill says, I would want Albert. Now, we also discussed this last week because Albert Pujols has said recently in the Angels camp because he has that service time he has to fulfill, that he really wants to be a manager for a Major League Baseball team. So now you have Yadi and you have Albert both making it clear that they want to be a manager for the team. And both of them are saying they don't care which team. I mean, even Yadi's saying that he would be the manager for the Cubs if he needs to be, which like that would be so gross to see. But that just shows his willingness to want to be a manager for any team in Major League Baseball. He said, I would manage the Cubs if they would want. That'd be so weird to see.
Who was it a few years ago at the Cubs Fest that took a shot at, was it Chris Bryant? Took a shot at St. Louis, and then Yadi had to, and said St. Louis wasn't fun, and then Yadi had to snap back at Chris Bryant.
Yeah, he takes that really seriously. That would be weird to see Yadi as a manager for the Cubs. I don't want to see that. But would the Cardinals make a move like the Blues, where you have two of these guys who've been a part of your organization, a huge part of your organization? They're out there saying, hey, I want to be a manager. Do you pull a Blues like they did with Doug Armstrong and with Jim Montgomery and say, okay, well, Ollie, we do like you. Drew Bannister, we do like you, but we can't pass on this huge opportunity to bring in Yadi or Albert?
They would have to prove more to me before that. I mean, Jim Montgomery had coached a team to the best record in the history of the league for a year. I would not replace Ollie Marmol with another manager with no experience. The Cardinals have already been there, done that with Matheny and Ollie. I think they need somebody that actually has winning major league experience. If they're going to replace Ollie Marmol, I would want somebody who has proven that they can be a teacher and they know how to win. And as much as I love those guys, they have not proven it to me.
To me, it's Albert. Albert's the answer there, because just watching how he worked with the players in his final season here with the Cardinals in St. Louis, I mean, he helped Juan Yepes a lot. I mean, he took him under his wing, but he did that with a lot of those players, and they were really intimidated. I remember asking some of the players in that room, I mean, even a Nolan Arenado, just intimidated by Albert Pujols because of who he is, but he really just let down, you know, that kind of guard that he might have had prior years, because it was his final season, and he opened up to young players, veteran players, and I saw firsthand why he would be such a great manager, because he was able to really direct those guys. And you could see too that he was open to analytics, but also old school, which I think is that perfect mix that you need right now in a manager of Major League Baseball.
Okay, so here is a question. I don't know if it's a conundrum. I don't know that it would be a problem, but let's just assume that a guy like Ivan Herrera becomes a star, okay, and gets a big contract, and he gets $100 million contract, and he decides with that money that he has that he wants to buy a pro basketball team in Panama. And in July, his Panamanian basketball team is in the finals. And he says, Skip, my Panamanian basketball team is in the finals, and I'm going back to Panama to watch them. How does Yadier Molina say no?
Oh, no. Didn't he get rid of the basketball team or sell it?
We know that he left for a week during a season.
He did.
So that he could watch the team play.
And then you had all those videos too because remember there was like a little kerfuffle during one of the games, and you know, he was right there front and center.
Didn't he throw a ball or kick a ball or something?
Yeah, and everybody's like, why aren't you here? And remember too, during the trade deadline, John Mozeliak was also trying to bait Yadi to come back, where he said, you know, we're going to pursue a catcher, which they did that offseason. Wilson Contreras, of course, as we know, the timeline of that. But he was kind of making it seem like they would pursue a catcher a little bit sooner to bait Yadi into coming back. And Adam Wainwright even mentioned that he was trying to get him back too.
They actually sent Adam to Puerto Rico to bring him back in the spring. And then when he left again, they asked him to go again. He said, I'm not his babysitter. He's my brother. I love him. But I'm not going back there to bring him back again. Yeah. At some point, the guy's got to take it on his shoulders. And I know there was a lot of pressure, a lot of things going on in Yadi's life. But at the same time, what has happened, I mean, we can't take away from the fact that it happened. We can't just make it go away. Eli says, don't make me choose. I want both.
Which one would be your bench coach and which one would actually be your manager, and how would that work out? I can't see Yadi willing to be a bench coach, and he's not even saying that in this entire article, which I'm sure Katie did ask. He did not mention that he would take a role. I was about to say lesser role. There's nothing against bench coaches. They do a lot.
They don't have to talk to the media.
They don't. That would make it a little bit easier. But I can't see Yadi or Albert saying, okay, I'll take a smaller role before being a manager. They're both saying, I want to be a manager straight away.
Even for their buddy, though, like how about the seniority that Albert had? Now, of course, Yadi stayed with the Cardinals. So Albert started with the team in 2001, but he left, and Yadi never left. So I would think that would be a tough choice for the Cardinals too.
I switched up the poll, so now you have to choose the next Cardinals manager, Yadier or Albert. First 11 votes straight went to Pujols, but now 2 Yadi votes have come in. So
no Joe Madden.
No, I just gave you 2. You get no waffling, no nothing. You get 2 choices. You have to choose between one of the 2 Cardinal legends. Do you want Yadier or do you want Albert? And right now, Albert's crushing in the poll.
That's how I feel. I watched Albert firsthand, and I know that it was only a little bit that we could see in the clubhouse, but the way he was working with all those players, and somebody pointed out, Brendan Donovan mentioned that, I think it was Bill that you mentioned that on the chat, that Brendan Donovan even talked about how much Albert Pujols helped him. Every single one of those guys was saying that in the clubhouse.
So, Brooke, what model have I said consistently that Cardinals fans should think the Cardinals are going to emulate?
Should think the Tampa Bay Rays, because I know the one that you wish that they would, which is the Braves, but which ones that they think is the Rays?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the Rays. And the people that generally start, 2 of the people that started the model that is the Rays now, Chaim Bloom, who's going to be the Cardinals' next president of baseball operations, and Joe Madden. I talked about getting a guy with experience that's won before, and I know he's 72. I don't care. Dusty Baker won a World Series at 74?
Yeah.
Ron Washington is a manager. Bochy won at 68 years old. I would rather have a guy that, if I'm trying to win, and a guy that is a proven teacher. One time on 101, Dave Duncan was on, said that, and Dave Duncan, obviously, worked with Tony La Russa for years, said that the best teacher of baseball he was ever around, and by the way, Dunk was also with George Kissel, said the best teacher of baseball he was ever around was Joe Madden. And I would rather get a guy that has a winning pedigree and a teaching pedigree and understands all the aspects of being a manager, like dealing with the media. Cardinal fan, loved Whitey ball. I'd rather have that guy that I know what he's capable of than somebody who I have no idea. Ted Williams was a manager. One of the great hitters of all time, was a terrible manager. A lot of bad players. There are a lot of bad managers out there. There are no guarantees that just because we hire a guy that was a great player here in St. Louis that he's going to be a great manager.
But Joe Madden also doesn't have a job right now as a manager, because all the teams know that bringing in a guy like Joe Madden means that you actually have to listen to the manager, and the manager will then dictate the culture of the entire organization. Those times have passed where they're letting managers do that in Major League Baseball, where they let them dictate how they want things to go in the minor league system, the major league system, the front office, what players they need. They're not letting a lot of these managers even do the eye test with games anymore. It's all about analytics first.
You're right. But this is why it's so great that Bloom and Madden worked together in Tampa for a decade.
That's a great point. Yeah.
So
can I throw another name in the hat?
Sure.
Okay.
Brooke Grimsley, skipper, first female skipper in Cardinal history, in Major League history.
No, I don't think anybody wants that whatsoever. But I'm going to throw it. Yeah, look, I would know how to work the media a little bit. Okay, at least let me be, kind of the person that kind of helps the media. I could do that. Yeah. I could do that a lot. So I'm going to throw another name in the hat.
Can you imagine the Grimsley, Katie Woo chats that we would get out of that? Oh my God. St. Louis baseball fans would never, that would be the greatest insight ever.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay. So this is another name in the hat that I think the Cardinals completely whiffed on, and there was a chance and there was an opportunity. I think you might know who I'm going to say. Skip Schumacher.
Terry Francona.
Yeah.
Skip Schumacher. The Cardinals absolutely whiffed. And we're talking about bringing in Albert. We're talking about bringing in Yadi. There was another great manager that was available who shows that he has the ability to develop players, to grow a culture, everything that you want. And he was in your organization working as a bench coach, and he found success afterwards as a manager. And he is currently the senior ops for the Rangers. I would have gone and gotten Skip Schumacher and brought him into the organization. He would be perfect for what you're doing right now. Absolutely perfect. That's, in my opinion, the chance that the Cardinals whiffed.
Yeah, and the reason that they did is because Ollie won 93 games, and he left after the winning season after they won the division. Yeah. But I'm with you. And apparently he's our buddy Greg Amsinger said that he is the heir apparent to Bochy, who I think is 70 now. in Texas. Hey, did you know that you can hear more about the Cardinals on Cards Hub 365 right here on Sports Hub STL? It's powered by Gray Bar, and it comes up today at 3 o'clock right here on Sports Hub STL on our YouTube page. You have it live right here on Sports Hub STL right after the Cardinals take on the Marlins down in Florida. You can also get the show on demand from YouTube following the live broadcast, as well as on Apple, Spotify, or any other major podcast outlet. Cards Hub 365, daily Cardinals content right here on Sports Hub STL, powered by Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. And oh, by the way, the Cardinals are on FanDuel Sports this afternoon at noon against the Marlins.
Nice. And hopefully we can see a little bit more offense, question mark. That would be completely ideal. Do we want to address the Hope-O-Meter now?
I love that idea.
Okay. So the Hope-O-Meter came out. This just came out this morning on The Athletic. You can see it right now. And we mentioned this. We were teasing this a little bit earlier, but the Cardinals coming in at 27th in the entire league with the fan Hope-O-Meter. So this is people weighing in. This is from you guys, like you guys on the chat. And if you did weigh in, we would love to know what your optimism or pessimism is with the team and how you voted and why you voted that way, because it seems like a lot of Cardinals fans are pretty down, and rightfully so. We heard what Yadi said about exactly what are the Cardinals doing. They can't even do this kind of reset properly. We've heard from fans about that as well. I'm not surprised that the Hope-O-Meter is so low for the Cardinals because it's confusing. I think the biggest thing is the messaging is confusing.
Well, I think the Cardinals told us to not have hope, right?
Basically.
They said that they used the term reset. They used the term, they never used rebuild, but, we're going to hit the reset button. So
payroll down. It's all depressing things.
It is. Now, I think that there were extenuating circumstances. I think the Cardinals, when they started the process, they fully expected that the guys that want to stay would want to go somewhere else and compete, like Gray and Contreras, but they're happy being here. So they gave those guys no trade contracts. They proved difficult to trade because they didn't want to give up their no trades, and then they weren't able to trade Arenado. So we knew that. So the process of rebuilding and tearing it down to the studs became more difficult for the Cardinals, and nobody was going to take Miles Michaelis, for example. But I do like some of the quotes from some of the people in the Athletic article, like Pessimist Benjamin, who says, we want your optimistic or pessimistic lines. Just type it to us on the YouTube chat. But Pessimistic Benjamin says, in 2 years since Yadi Molina and Albert Pujols hit the exit, the Cardinals have mastered the Blues' art of losing too much to accomplish anything while winning too much to garner a high draft pick. Opening day in St. Louis hasn't sold out yet. Opening day, period, in St. Louis, period. Well, yes, you're 100% right. I think opening day will sell out, by the way. And the Cardinals did have the 7th pick in the draft last year, and they got a guy that many people thought would be the number 1 pick in J.J. Weatherholt, and they do have the 5th highest pick in the draft this year. So they better take a right-handed hitter, I would think. But
I would hope so.
They are it's not a bad thing. The Cardinals went for 20 years without having high picks, and went to 4 World Series, 06, 11, 04, 06, 11, and 13. They went to a ton of NLCSs. I actually enjoyed that winning. I don't know that I would enjoy having the worst record in the league. And the Cardinals haven't had the worst record in the league, I think, since 1918 or something like that.
Yeah, well, you're just so used to success here. And so this is why this whole transition is a little bit weird. And I understand kind of the confusion from fans, too, about what exactly the messaging is. Because to even me, having been in the media and heard, the end of season press conference, I still get confused at times about what exactly is happening. Even with this whole transition with Bloom taking over, I do think it is a good idea to let Bloom be able to build this organization the way he wants from the bottom up. So that makes a lot of sense. With the minor league system, that's what he's focusing on this season, but then getting ready, to take over John Mozeliak. But even that's a little muddy and not as clear as to what that will look like, because then will Bloom be handling the trade deadline stuff? That will directly affect him, and that hasn't been addressed fully. It's kind of confusing to me. And then even with some of the players, we talked about this yesterday, but some of these position battles, I know they try to move Nolan Arenado, so that really just messes up the roster construction in the way that they wanted. So that's kind of out of their hands. They did try to move Nolan. He obviously vetoed that with the Houston Astros, but at the same time, it feels like there's kind of like a little bit of musical chairs, as we mentioned yesterday, on how they're trying to maneuver guys, how they're going to handle the DH, how they're going to handle the outfield. I don't really know what exactly that will look like. And with these young guys to be able to build up to anything, They need consistency.
Yeah. I think Siani hitting 045 helps him out a little bit, actually.
It should make it a little bit clearer.
Yeah. But then do you play Newtbar in center? Victor Scott has been fantastic during spring training. Do you play Victor Scott in center field every day? And how hurt really is Jordan Walker? Because that could change things too. But if you don't have Jordan Walker, then you're missing a right-handed hitter and you're missing opportunities to get Walker those at-bats that you desperately want him to have.
Yeah, and that is the good thing about having Nolan around is that you do need some more right-handed bats in your lineup. But at the same time, it's just still confusing about what exactly that messaging is. It seems like we still have people who are weighing in about the whole Yadi and Pujols discussion too, as we're looking at the optimism for 2025. Brandon says, do you guys think if the Cardinals had Yadi or Pujols, it would help be a draw for free agent players down the road that want to play for, oh, sorry, it moved for 1 second, play for one of these guys, or is it just money?
Well, I think it's money, but I think another thing holding us back is the decline of the market over the last decade or so. I don't think St. Louis is as attractive a place as it was in the 80s. And then when McGuire came here in 98, I think the area has something to do with it. I think, unfortunately, the experiences of people like Jason Hayward and Dexter Fowler here have had an effect on African-American players. And so I don't think that St. Louis is as attractive a baseball destination as it was when they got Scott Rowland in 2002. Even when they got Holiday in 2009, I just don't think it, and especially with those guys not being here, I think it'd be better if you had Pujols and Molina playing in their primes. I think that was more attractive than Pujols or Molina being a manager or a coach.
You don't even think, like, with them managing, that maybe that could be enticing a little bit for free agents?
If those guys would win, I think it'd benefit the pursuit of players.
Players will go wherever they can win.
Yeah, and where there's money. Like if it's down to the Cardinals and the Dodgers are going to win every time, right?
They're I mean, if it's the Dodgers versus anybody at this point, the Dodgers will always win.
Yeah,
they're just. I think that on the Hope-O-Meter, that they are literally
they're 99%.
99%. If you're a Dodgers fan, you're so lucky. You literally have to feel so good about your team.
Yeah. I want to see if there's a pessimist. I'm going to scroll up here and see if there's a Dodgers pessimist. What would you be pessimistic about? Because
I don't know.
All the guys were hurt last year. Dodgers 99.7% optimism. Optimist Len.
That's the only thing. That's the only thing you can be. That's the only thing you could be pessimistic about, unless it costs too much to go to a game at the ballpark to see my team that's going to win everything for the next 10 years. I don't know.
Here's
my gold shoes are too heavy.
Yeah,
my pearl teeth scratch easily. I don't know. What are we going to come up with here?
Here's an anonymous pessimist for the Doyers. Said it's impossible to be optimistic. We've either broken baseball by spending and winning the World Series, or we're the laughing stock choke artists. Excited to find out which we are.
You guys won last year. I do understand that the expectations are a little bit higher.
That is the most Hollywood. I've been addicted to ketamine and cocaine, and my serotonin levels now are completely broken. I don't know how to feel happiness I've ever heard in my entire life.
Did you guys look at this article, by the way?
I was able to scan through it. I didn't look through every single one.
Do you remember who the second most optimistic fan base is?
I don't know.
Arizona Diamondbacks fans at 99.4%.
You know what we call that, Randy?
What?
Relativism. That's a fan base that knows when the good things are coming and when to appreciate them, because they're not always good for very long.
Optimist Nancy says 2 Corbins instead of 1. Obviously, Burns joining Carroll. Optimist Jacob for the Diamondbacks. I might still be high from our improbable postseason run the year before, but I feel like this offseason went about as well as I could have asked. The addition of Josh Naylor blunts the brutal but expected loss of Christian Walker, and the surprise signing of Corbin Burns makes our rotation look surprisingly elite.
Oh,
am I crazy that Corbin really does seem like a good Arizona name? Like, I feel like they should get Corbins, Colbys, Claytons could all really play really well for Arizona. Kevin's,
like they
Dylan's
in Texas.
Oh, that's a good Colby's. Colby's a good Texas name.
God, you're right. From Texas.
That is a very Clayton name.
But Corbin, I don't know. Corbin, I feel like
Corbin's kind of a rancher name.
Corbin, yeah, Corbin's out there in Albuquerque. I feel that.
Yeah, there you go.
He's out there in Albuquerque.
This is really interesting to look at the top 10. These are the most optimistic fan bases. Doyers, as you might expect, number 1. Diamondbacks 2, Rangers 3, Mets 4. You'd expect that. Royals 5, Red Sox 6, Tigers 7. Number 8, the Reds. Number 9, the Braves. And number 10, the Phillies. So a lot of teams that you wouldn't expect to have optimistic fan bases really do.
Yeah. Let's Turn 2 says, before I can say if the glass is half empty or half full, I want to know what's in the glass. Still a lot of questions before opening day, especially the pitching staff. Yeah, I agree with that. Well, we talked about Sonny Gray yesterday, and it is just spring training, so he's still working on things, but not exactly a great day for him on the mound. But there is a lot of questions with the starting rotation. What will Miles Michaelis be this year? There's no way that, I mean, and I could be completely wrong, would love to be, that all of a sudden Miles Michaelis just turns it on the backside of his career. Sonny Gray is like 33, 34. Oh, yeah, he has a bounce back year 1 year, and then,
So this is bounce back.
Is it though? Because hasn't it been like down year back?
So double bounce back? Really, really, really good?
Yeah. That's the thing, is that we already know what Miles is. We already know the potential of Sonny Gray. We already know who Steven Matz is. We already know who Eric Fetty is. I'm ready to see some of these younger guys be able to take some of those spots in the starting rotation. We talked about it yesterday, but you have this perfect situation. It's official that Garrett Cole will have to undergo Tommy John surgery. You have this potential situation where you can maybe move a Fetty and a Matz to the New York Yankees. Why not do it?
Yeah.
I know that injuries can happen, but those injuries are more likely to happen to a Steven Matz.
And apparently I was told that the Yankees, when I was bringing that up, I was said, I think the Yankees might be interested in Alcantara. I don't know if they're interested in our guys.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Joe Rodell, the 2025 season, the proverbial glass is 33% full, 1/3 full. I don't know what to expect. And that's why I say I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals won 71 games like they did 2 years ago, or 83 games like they did last year. I think that the Delta, what do I sound like there? Thank you. Yeah.
I should have seen like the bow tie pictured.
Oh yeah, I need that. Yeah.
You got to be more really egregious with it. Say things like step in the bucket or some other really, really deep cut bow thing.
Okay. Hi, Tiff. Tiff says, lately I've learned to enjoy the game of baseball, all the little nuances of every single pitch. I'm going to enjoy this season knowing that my expectations are low, hoping to be surprised. You know what? There is nothing like
enjoying the sport you're watching. What is this, 2007?
Well, but you know what? I think there's a lot of people that are interested in baseball when the team is winning, and they can't enjoy a team that's growing. But watching the individual sport between pitcher and hitter taking place, but in the sport that is a team sport, I think is really interesting too. And watching the way pitchers attack hitters and seeing what they have that particular day and whether it works. And some guys just have that. Chris Carpenter, when he was hurt and didn't have good stuff, would just find a way to win. Some guys just have that grit and that intelligence. Some guys don't. Some guys keep trying to win with stuff that they don't have. And I think that is an interesting way to watch baseball. I love the one-on-one matchup between a pitcher and a hitter, or a catcher and a hitter. And I really do enjoy the sport. And if my team is getting beat 10-1 every night, it's not as much fun.
Well, to me, it's like chess. It's like watching a game of chess.
Yeah. And
checkers is a lot quicker, obviously, but with chess, there's a lot of nuances to it.
So I think it's fun. And in a season like this, one of the things I do like is watching young players, just in general, in my life. I like watching young people ascend, and that includes young players.
It's fun because then you get to say, oh, I remember the beginning of that. You get to say, I remember the beginning of what that is like. And I think that Tiff is right. The expectations are actually low going into the season. Even Yadi said that. It's the first offseason that the Cardinals didn't actually do anything in free agency to go out and get a big name or kind of big name, something like that. So this season, the expectations are low. Anything they do to surpass that will be interesting. I just don't see this team being like a 90 plus win. I mean, like a 90 win, maybe 80, in that 80 to something range, I think is just fine.
I think that'd be a really good season. Yeah. If they could be 83 wins again.
Yeah.
I think that'd
with
be a really
this
good
young
season.
group, with all this confusion that we already have going into the year, I think that would be successful.
Tiff, OMG, 29 is my favorite player of all time. I love you, Randy. Thank you, Tiff. I love you too. And I liked Alex Reyes too. I thought he was great.
Oh.
What's wrong, Matthew? Matthew, put the bubble up.
Put the bubble up.
You don't have access to the bubble?
What happened to the bubble?
I don't have access to the bubble.
Matthew just put his head in his hands.
That was just, it was such a weird deep cut on that one. God, by the way, I have to give credit to Applejack who threw this up to Randy.
Oh,
there
that's
you go. That's a Ranger.
How perfect
is
is the name
perfect.
Wyatt Langford for the
Wyatt
Rangers?
He was born for this. He was born for this.
That my favorite thing in the world is to find things like that. It's like when you say a name, it's like my favorite thing ever is when you're watching like a college game and you hear the announcer say a name and you're like, he's not playing in the NFL because you can't picture just can't picture them being like Donnie Blue John touchdown. Nope, it's not. They're not saying that on Sunday. It's just not going to work. And that's my favorite thing to do. I'm glad that people jump in and we do these very stupid things.
We've got a good friend by the name of Chris Gardner, who every year puts together the all Ascot team.
Ascot All Stars for baseball. That's one of my favorite things he ever came up with was the Ascot All Stars. I'll hear a name and I'll text him and I'll be like, this guy, like I'll say like a guy named like John Aloysius III, and I'll text Gardner and be like, that has to be an immediate Ascot All-Star, right?
Yeah.
Well, you even think of like people that you just knew that they would end up being like a sports star, like Mason Blaze Wynn.
Come on,
he was born for this.
Oh,
literally,
Markevian Tank Hence.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Our buddy Hockey Dad Don, thank you very much for being with us, Hockey Dad Don. My expectations for the season are low, but there's nothing like seeing my two young kids smile when they meet Fredbird. That makes going to the ballpark worth it. See, that's another little thing. Not a little thing. It's a big thing when you see your kids experience joy.
Yes, that is a great reason to go to the ballpark. And maybe tickets will actually be a little bit, I know we talked about the ballpark pass being more expensive, but maybe just getting regular single game tickets will be a lot cheaper this year.
Yeah, there you go.
There's another positive outlook on this.
Can you get tickets cheaper than nothing? Keith Adams, the Cardinals have done a great job at convincing people they don't have a lot of money. This way, players who should be gone are still here, taking a hit on Miles and Nolan, speeding up the rebuild. They've done a great job of convincing people that they don't have a lot of money. This way, players who should be gone are still here, taking a hit on Miles and Nolan, speeding up the rebuild. Well, they have no trade contracts. I think that was part of it too.
That's a big part.
And
you can't move guys that don't want to be moved.
If put yourself in the shoes of another general manager, let's just throw. So the Reds this offseason went out and got Brady Singer. Okay, and the Reds GM is Nick Kroll, right? So he goes to Bob Castellini, the owner of the Reds, and says, hey, I want to go make a trade for a pitcher. I want to go trade for this Miles Michaelis guy for the Cardinals. I really like him. Bob Castellini says, you want to spend $18 million of my money on Miles Michaelis? Nick Kroll says, yeah. If you're a legit GM, how do you go to your owner? All due respect to Miles Michaelis. I said all due respect.
So then you could say whatever you want. That's the rules. Them the rules.
Them the rules. How do you go to your owner and with a straight face say, yeah, let's trade for Miles Michaelis. Let's spend $18 million on it.
There's no way that anybody would do that.
No. And we said with all due respect. So you got to look at it from somebody else's perspective as well.
Who would want him? Yeah.
Right.
With all due respect.
Yeah. And with all due respect. And same thing with Arenado. They found a taker. They had a deal done. But the player said no. I don't know what more they could have done. They had a deal done with Houston, and Arenado said no. Now, you could have, if there were legitimately 5 on his list that he would consider, and apparently Houston was one of those, maybe you get a little bit more aggressive with them. But I just don't see why the Cardinals are getting blamed for some things of their own doing, giving the no trade clauses, but then not being able to move guys when the guys wanted to be here.
Are you surprised? Because it seems like that was reintroduced with the Houston Astros and Nolan Arenado being a possibility that maybe the two sides were talking again and the Cardinals. Are you surprised that that didn't happen? Because to me, the Astros have, if Arenado is wanting to win now, I feel like the Astros have more of that potential than where the Cardinals are at currently.
Absolutely, yeah. But
they added Walker, and
that's the thing, they hadn't added Walker at that point.
But then we had those reports coming back that it seemed like it was maybe coming back to the surface.
Yeah, but then nothing there. Weird.
Exactly.
And they're still going to play Jose Altuve a lot in left field. Bubs checks in. We love you, Bubs. Any potential of them winning 90 plus? Not that there's a high chance of that. I can tell you this, Bubs. In 1985, when the Cardinals won 101 games and went to the World Series, they were picked to finish dead last in the National League East. Picked to finish dead last. They had lost Suter. They traded Hendrick for Tudor. The guy they hadn't hit at all the year before in 1984. And so they were picked to finish last, and they wound up winning the division with 101. You never can tell. As Yadi said in the article, baseball is crazy. You don't ever know. The Cardinals were not expected to be as good as they were in 2004. They were bad in 2003, and in 2004 they wind up winning 105 games. And it wasn't like they had. Trying to think if they had a Hall of Fame pitcher. It was Carpenter, Suppan, Morris, Woody Williams. I don't even remember who the number 5 guy was on that team. But it was not a great staff, but they wound up winning 105 games. You never know. Bill Downton, checking in from the Abbey. Been a fan since 68, and I thought at the end of the season it was going to be a 60-win team with us giving the players a chance like J.C., Weatherholt, Crooks, Mathews, McGreevy. I think I would not be surprised, Brooke, if any of those players would find themselves in the majors. And I kind of expect Mathews and McGreevy to be here at some point during the season.
Yeah, I do too. At a certain point, the opportunity, I'm assuming, will arise, especially for McGreevy.
He maybe on the opening series, he's pitching. Our buddy Chris Gardner got back to me. Some of his all Ascot players. Chesler Cuthbert.
Oh man, that's perfect.
Dansby Swanson.
And he went to Vanderbilt. Like everything about that is just
totally,
perfection.
Yeah. Whit Merrifield. George Chelston Springer the third.
George Springer's middle name is Chelston.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Colin McHugh. Yeah. So there's some all Ascot guys for you.
Oh man, that is perfection. By the way, we just ended that poll on if you would rather have Albert Pujols or Yadier Molina be the next manager of the Cardinals, and 71% of you voted for Albert over Yadi. Don't show Yadi that.
I would vote for Albert too. I
would. But would they want to be the Cardinals manager? I think that is the question. And I would pick Skip Schumacher. I think I might even pick him over Albert and Yadi because of the experience factor.
He's won a manager of the year.
Exactly. I think I would.
But between those two, I think Albert just checks more boxes in terms of the players. Not that Yadi wasn't revered, but he wasn't revered for actually helping young players like Albert was. And then the media part of it. Now, Albert wasn't a great media guy in his first 10 years here, but he has become a really good media guy. And I think he does, not that Yadi doesn't understand all aspects of managing, but it seems like Albert just has a really good grasp of the pulse of the players on the team.
And he's showing up to spring training, which I know that's a requirement with his service time, but actually showing up to spring training is that first step into introducing yourself.
And last year he showed up at Cardinal camp too.
He did. Right? Yeah.
Rip It Up Cards checks in with us. He says, my expectation is a 500 season with kids playing. My fear is a 500 season with an old rotation and not seeing runway given to the young players.
When are we going to get away from this old rotation?
That's a great,
when will it ever go away?
Comment,
hey, Rip It Up Cards, 100% agree. I would be all over trying to move Matt's, and that might be difficult, and Fetty. And Fetty should be easier at $7.5 million.
Yeah.
But I want to get McGreevy in there. I want to get Palante in there. Katie Wu this morning said that they want to get Matthew Liberatore into the rotation, and then obviously have Quinn Mathews on the way. I'm with you 100%. I don't want to. It's hard to do a rebuild, isn't it, when you have a bunch of young position players and old starting pitchers?
Yeah, it makes things a little bit harder, and that's what I just don't understand, because with Eric Fetty and with Steven Matz, teams can already see who they are, and they're healthy before you could have something happen, like with Steven Matz. That's the only thing, is that why not move them before something happens? Because in my opinion, before the season starts, teams already know who Fetty is. They already know who Steven Matz is. Matz can even be a swingman for your team. He's done that with the Cardinals. He can be a starter. He can be in your
put
bullpen.
A little pineapple out in front?
Oh, no, not that kind of swinging, Randy.
Oh, okay.
No. What in the world? No. This is a family. We are rated, is it G, right?
We're G, yeah.
Yeah, we're rated G. We're a rated G program.
We
Remember
all
that,
like
people.
Brooke, I dropped a joke about ketamine and cocaine earlier. No, we're not.
I guess, yeah. Well, I'm trying to make it rated G. I have a little one that says
it's listening. Pete Jr., 7774. My 6-year-old likes Cards games more than Blues because of the place, and the Freebird. No, it's Fredbird. Freebird's great too. Being so accessible, she gets a pick with them every game. I think that's awesome. I think that's great. And Pete Jr. adds in, my 12-year-old likes Blues better because it's more exciting, and she remembers the Blues parade. The Blues Parade was great.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And Louis, nothing wrong with Louis there either. But I see that's one of the great things is that, and that's one of the great things about this town is that the sport is passed down from grandparents and parents to their kids. And that's one of the reasons Cardinal Nation is Cardinal Nation, is that for the last 50 years or so, and before that, but Cardinal Nation really became a thing in the 80s when they started drawing 3 million. And it is kind of a rite of passage here as you grow up. You'll learn this with the little fella. We don't have a hell of a lot to do here, so we go to baseball games. And kids learn baseball. Here, I think, like in Chicago, number one, a lot of kids never experienced winning baseball. But it's a Bears town. Right?
Why would you take it? So they are experiencing a lot of losing then in Chicago.
Yeah. But if you go to a place, Cleveland has done a lot of winning. But Cleveland is a Browns town. And in most cities that have an NFL team,
it's NFL
is,
first.
Right, whatever, an X, whatever the football team is, town. So that's the tradition. Baseball is kind of it's a pastime in the summer, but people's passion is in the NFL teams. Here, because we spent so much time without the NFL, our passion is baseball. And I really think I said this to Chaim Bloom, I think he has been the president or will have been the president of baseball ops in the two really great baseball towns in America, in St. Louis and Boston.
100%. He's been lucky enough to do that. And I know that it wasn't a great welcome for him in Boston when he had to move on from Mookie Betts, but that was the position that he had to be in. That was more of a ownership decision rather than him. So I feel like we always have to address that with Bloom. He just had to do what he needed to do there. And that you're never going to win in that situation if you move on from Mookie Betts. But I wonder too, and just kind of pointing out what this person said about their child being a fan of the Blues more because they were able to remember the parade and how much fun that was. Do you have any concern about some of these young fans? And of course, I know that everything here is St. Louis Cardinals, as you mentioned, but we also have a lot of apathy that has set in. You said this first, Randy, apathy that has set in with the fan base because of how the Cardinals have just struggled in recent years. Some of the decisions they've made haven't panned out well. Do you worry about that carrying on to the next generation of Cardinals fans who weren't able to see some of the greatness over the years?
I do worry about it. And I think one of the things that's happened is, and it's not necessarily his fault. So I want to start by saying this, but I think a lot of adults have developed apathy because of their feelings about John Mozeliak.
100%.
And that apathy has resulted in them not going to games, not showing a passion, which is, I think we call apathy. And so if mom and dad are apathetic towards the team and the game's not on TV or we aren't going to games, well, what's that going to do with the kids, right? And especially if kids, they go to one soccer game or they go to one Blues game and there's action and the stadium is unbelievable and the atmosphere is unbelievable. And in hockey, there's always action. And then the kids are playing lacrosse and they're playing action sports. I think it's really difficult to develop passion for a sport like baseball that's relatively slow if you are charged with doing it yourself. Unless your parents ingrain you with a love of baseball, I think it's hard for a kid to fall in love with it.
And if you see mommy and daddy getting mad at the TV all the time at the Cardinals and saying, I'm so sick and tired of this team, they make stupid decisions, then the kid's also not going to want to enjoy the Cardinals. I see more and more City SC fans, honestly, walking around St. Louis, especially young kids. I see a lot more City SC fans than I almost do Cardinal stuff at times.
Yeah. Eric Cleveland, we are born with Cardinal blood. We are. There's no doubt about that. We are different, but I think that is a danger. And I've asked a lot of people this over the last couple of years, especially the last year. Have the Cardinals killed, maybe inadvertently, the Golden Goose?
Yeah, because of what has happened in recent years. And you talked about that apathy. Also, the way that they have kind of built these teams, I think, is a big part of that too. And then even just all of the public stuff. Like we are now seeing former players kind of come out and speak against the organization. It's fun. The Cardinals have been successful for so long that, of course, national media and people love any moment where it seems like the Cardinals are failing, and they have put themselves in certain positions where they don't look great. And then you have former players who played recently from the team go on and basically throw the organization on the bus. So then that even tarnishes the reputation of the organization even more.
And think about this, Brooke, because you've watched, we both watch, not every day, but we watch Foul Territory, right?
Mm-hmm.
AJ Przinsky, a former Cardinal.
Oh, they hate the Cardinals right now.
They do. And it seems like everybody they get, like the Young last year, and I think Zach Gallen, I think Randall Grichuk has been on there. And it seems like everybody that's on there takes a shot. And then you have the Edmonds comments.
Yes.
And some other former players. It does seem like, for whatever reason, that there is kind of an anti-Cardinal sentiment out there. Now, it's been there among a lot of fans on social media for a long time, but now it has seeped into former players, and that doesn't help either.
No, it's because when you're able to build something as successful as the Cardinals did for so long, and you're one of the top teams that a lot of teams aspire to, all of a sudden you're starting to fall apart and nobody's aspiring to be like you right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people are kind of enjoying that downfall, and it is not great to see. I mean, I do listen to what the play. I know that some players are probably just scorned, and that could be part of it too, Jim Edmonds. But I think that the other part of it, there is some truth in a lot of that stuff. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And if you have several people saying, I didn't like, the way that the organization handled this is not how they handle it in other places, that should be something that really sticks out of the Cardinals, which is maybe why we are being introduced to this Bloom era.
And to be fair, I feel the same way people feel about the Cardinals, about the Patriots. I am so glad that the Patriots are terrible.
Oh, people eat it up.
Yeah.
And we eat it up. I love watching the Patriots suck.
But I think that's, we mentioned the 4 World Series.
Yeah.
Cardinals went to the NLCS in 2011, 12, 13, 14, 100 games in 15, went to the NLCS again in 19. Yeah, there's a lot of people around the country.
They want to see that downfall.
And they say, I'm sick of it. Kind of like the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
The Chiefs fatigue. People love it when a team that was really good for a long time starts to fail. Ray, call the Yankees. See if they can be enticed to take Arenado by including Fetty in a deal. Yes, do that. And
why not?
Yeah, and offer Mats too. And say, hey, we'll take Clayton Beeter, who's got a bad shoulder. We'll take I've said this before, Brooke. We'll take your worst minor leaguer. You just give us a minor leaguer, and we'll take that for Fetty, Mats, Arenado, and you guys can just take the contracts. They should have insurance on Giancarlo Stanton. I know they have insurance on Garrett Cole's deal. And with Cole down and Heel down and Stanton apparently down, they kind of need to recharge. And there are a lot of questions about the front of the rotation. Like we said earlier, their target right now is Sandy Alcantara. But I think they just need to get some depth now. And Mats and Fetty have an opportunity to be depth guys behind Max Fried and Carlos Rodon and Clark Schmidt.
Basically be like the Dodgers. You can do whatever you want if you're the Yankees.
Yeah.
Why not just go get some depth?
If Hal Steinbrenner is willing to spend, he doesn't like that tax.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah. And the Dodgers have no problem with it whatsoever.
Yep. A couple more, and we do really appreciate you folks joining us here on the YouTube chat. It's pretty fun. Waterboy has a good question. Who's the next Cardinal to get an extension? Who is the young player that the Cardinals...
Mason Wynn?
I think Mason Wynn makes sense. It doesn't seem like they're ready to place, and I don't know if he'd accept an extension at this point, but Brendan Donovan, I don't know that they're ready to put him in a spot and make him the guy. Certainly not Walker at this point, certainly not Gorman at this point. So maybe Mason Wynn is your guy.
Do you think they would give Donovan like kind of a Tommy Edman-like extension?
I would give him, I would give him a deal like that. Yeah.
I don't think they would give him a big one because you do have Weatherhold on the way.
Right. Now, here's one thing I would do. Guy hasn't pitched an inning in the major leagues, but some teams do this. I would give Quinn Mathews 75/7.
Yes, 100%. I would too. And that is a fantastic point, just because we are seeing, if you're saying that you're going all in on trying to rebuild where you have homegrown players that are making it at the major league level, and that you're going all in on that, you don't want to dip into the free agency waters as much anymore. Why not go do that? We've seen it work for the Brewers. We've seen it work for the Diamondbacks.
$10 million to a guy who's never pitched in the majors before.
But here's the thing.
But he's going to be great.
He's going to be great.
And if he's not,
he's 24.
$10 million a year.
Yeah.
It's set because that's 70
you have
million.
to find
That's
other ways to
deal.
be tactful. If you're not going to dip into those free agency waters anymore, you have to find other ways. Other teams are doing that. As I mentioned, Brewers and Diamondbacks.
And here's the thing. If Mathews is what they think he's going to be, then when he's 30, he's going to get 300 million.
I agree. And I think that's a move that if this is like 2018, I would have been huge in it because the Cardinals know they got 60 million coming to them, no matter what from the TV. And so $70 million potentially sunk to a guy that isn't going to do anything for me is a very good risk. I don't have that $60 million coming to me anymore. I don't know where my money's coming from.
But your whole team is young.
That's true. But I'm just saying is that's I like the idea of the early contract, but on a guy who you do not have any major league track record.
At some point, you got to hitch your wagon to somebody.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
especially a starting pitcher.
And if everybody, and once again, it's all about trends. You might as well do what the other teams are doing too, and it makes sense. Somebody said, Eric Cleveland said, JJ Weatherholt, Jackson Churio contract.
Not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea.
Let's get him to AAA first.
That would help.
Yes, it's not a bad call. Yeah. John Red, if you're signing Quinn, then it needs to be for 10, not 7. I'm fine with that.
Randy for GM.
Sign Walker to 5-year, $25 million. I bet he takes that right now. Oh yeah, I think that he would.
Okay,
and you know what? That's not a bad idea.
If we make you GM right now, and there's a young player, we're talking about within the minor league system, so not at the major league, but minor league system. Who is the first one you're approaching for an extension like that?
It's not a guy that's hit the majors yet.
Yes,
it's Mathews. He would.
I think so too.
Yeah, he would easily be my first guy,
because you also have a lot of questions coming up soon about your starting rotation.
Yeah, and I've got so many young catchers. I don't know who my best young catcher is going to be. Davis hasn't done enough yet. Davis had a nice second half of last season. Weatherholt, I haven't seen enough. Quinn Mathews was dominant. He was he was a Baseball America minor league pitcher of the year last year, and he's never done anything to make me believe that he's not going to be great. Whether it's looking at his numbers at Stanford, pitching against good competition, blasting through 4 levels of the minors last year and striking out 202 batters last year. Everything that Quinn Mathews has done leads me to believe that he's going to be great. So he'd be the first.
One a little bit earlier in the chat from John Red, sign Walker to a 5-year, $25 million deal. I bet he takes that right now.
Yeah. Here's the thing though. This will be his 3rd year in the majors, right? I wonder if he really wants to stay an extra year with the Cardinals.
I don't know. Do you think he would? Because I don't think he would.
He doesn't seem thrilled.
No, I don't think so.
So
especially last year, I can't get over the amount of things that happened to him just last year. Because remember too, they had that big game in Alabama. What was it? That he was supposed to be a part of.
Rickwood Park. Right?
Yes, and so I remember he spoke about that specifically at the beginning of the season, how important that was for him. He wasn't able. They didn't call him up right before that game. They brought up Victor Scott II, if I remember correctly, right? But they didn't bring up Jordan Walker. Right. And I remember that was a huge deal to Jordan Walker where he really wanted to play in that game and then he didn't get to. He was also supposed to be part of that new promotion too with uniforms.
The City Connects, yeah.
Yeah, the City Connects.
They had to redo the photo shoot because he was the centerpiece of the Lou photo shoot.
Yeah. All of a sudden he was gone from that too.
Yeah.
So many different things that happened with him last season. I feel like that has to have.
We've got a bobblehead here. There he is.
Oh, and then he didn't even play for bobblehead night.
Yeah, Jordan Skywalker. You want to grab that? Show it to people.
Yes. Well, it's going to take me a minute, so you might need to talk.
Yeah, and we get another. We appreciate the YouTube chat. Nancy Renee, Randy, LOL, pineapple. That's good.
This is a great bobblehead, by the way.
It was a great bobblehead.
And he didn't even get to play that night.
Here we've got to pull up what young player with minimal MLB experience should get a contract. This is MLB Network experience.
Oh, MLBN.
No problem. I'm going to vote for Quinn Mathews.
Okay, that's a great question. Which player would be great on MLB Network?
Mason Wynn.
Mason Wynn would be great. I think that Lars would be right behind him too.
J-Dub would be great.
Yeah, he would. Yeah. Who else is somebody that would be great on MLB Network?
Topher Rocks. What I love about baseball is that it's more of a game than a sport. So much strategy. It's a thinking person's game for sure. You are 100% right.
That's why I said chess, not checkers.
Okay, another who else would be great? Brendan Donovan. would be really
yeah,
good
yeah.
on MLB
I'm
Network.
trying to think about
He's a
somebody-
thoughtful player.
He is very thoughtful, and I mean, all of them are very smart. You have a lot. You have a great group of guys in that
Yep.
clubhouse.
Yeah,
You really
Herrera.
do. Herrera, yes.
And Pies, both catchers.
Mason
Yeah.
Wynn has taken the lead in the poll. I put him in there because he's got obviously a lot more major league experience than Weatherholt or Quinn Mathews. But it is interesting that Mason Wynn and Quinn Mathews are pretty much the only ones getting votes right now. JJ Weatherholt just picked one up.
Okay, I want to touch more on
Burleson.
the comment here by Topher Rocks because of what you love about baseball, and that's like my dad taught me how to score a game, right? To use a scorecard and really pay attention. I think we had another reason that we're a great baseball town is because Jack Buck, when he was the Cardinal broadcaster, the iconic broadcaster, he taught us a lot about the sport, and Mike Shannon did too. And we've had the good fortune of having people that kind of helped us along and helped us think along. Danny Mack, when he was doing the Cardinals, he always broadcast with thinking ahead.
Yeah.
And okay, what are our options here? And our broadcasters have thought the game and brought those thoughts to us. So Topher Rocks, I think that's a great point that you make there about it being more of a game, kind of like chess. We talked earlier about it being a chess match than a sport.
Yeah, it's very tactful. You
yeah.
have to pay attention to every single little moment to be able to fully appreciate it.
Can I make one other quick point? Both Whitey and Tony, right?
Yes.
Taught us so much about the sport.
Yes. Just meeting both of them too. Obviously, I wasn't here during those eras and I wasn't born yet for those eras, but just meeting those two, they are incredible baseball minds. Incredible. And you could see why they both had so much success.
Yeah, Hall of Famers, both. Ray says, Jack Buck and Dan Kelly made me Cardinal and Blues fans. There you go. And see, that's when I talked to Anouk Karunaratne. Yeah, thank you. And we were talking about the regional aspect of the Cardinal fan base. And obviously, back in the day, KMOX hit like 44 states when I was working there. But then they got a new tower and it's not as many states. Now they're FM. But anyway, that's just an aside. 104.1 if you want to listen to them. But I think starting on March 24th.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But back in the day, we were the Red Hot Clear Channel 50,000 watts of KMOX hitting 44 states. So you had people, and baseball was the sport, and you had people, Bob Costas up in Long Island, New York, was tuning into KMOX. A lot of the legislators in Washington, D.C. would go up to a hill and in their cars listen to the Cardinal game at night on KMOX. People in Canada would listen to Blues games. Parents in Canada would listen to their kids' games, Dan Kelly calling them on KMOX. And that just doesn't exist anymore. It was such a romantic thing. And now it's just not part of who we are. We don't listen to the radio like we did. And there's so many ways to consume baseball or hockey that we just don't do it anymore like we did.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why Major League Baseball needs to address blackouts with their broadcasts so that you can have a broader spectrum of people that you're able to cover. I think the blackouts are just ridiculous. You should be able to watch whatever team you want, wherever you want. That grows the game. It makes a lot of sense because, to your point, fans are everywhere. Arkansas, before I moved here to St. Louis, Arkansas was like in half because of the radio broadcast. It was like in half of Cardinals fans and Cubs fans. So I started covering the Cardinals actually in Arkansas because that area that I was in, Northwest Arkansas, had a ton of Cardinals fans.
You're telling me that the other half of that area in Arkansas is Cubs fans?
A ton
I
of
did
Cubs
not
fans.
think you could tell me something that would make
Because
me
of the
least
radio.
desirable to go to Arkansas. I didn't think there would be something that you could be like, here's the reason why you want to go less to Arkansas.
But there's a ton of Cardinals fans.
I thought my
there.
range of wanting to go to Arkansas was at the highest it possibly could be. Knowing now that there's a cavalcade of Cubs fans, apparently, yeah.
But
thank you so much for the warning, Brooke.
That's from WGN.
I understand. Yeah,
Exactly.
I figure out. Yeah, I get why, but I never put it together.
Yeah.
But now, just a great reason to just fly to Louisiana.
Did you ever go to Hot Springs or whatever?
I did.
Aren't there some nice vacation areas in Arkansas?
I would suggest Northwest Arkansas out of all the places. So that's like Bentonville, Fayetteville, where the university is. Gorgeous. Lots of hiking, lots to do. It is absolutely stunning. And because of all the Walmart money that they have in Bentonville, Arkansas, which is where the Walmart headquarters is, they have really built up that area. And there's a lot of cool things to do there.
Good.
And there's a lot of nature. It is the natural state.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if a lot of people know that. It is the natural state. But when you kind of get a little bit further south in Arkansas,
Jersey's called
Hot Springs is
Garden
cool.
State?
I think it's cool.
So when I was a teenager, a buddy, Larry Baden, and I, we drove to the Liberty Bowl. Mizzou was playing Purdue in the Liberty Bowl in Memphis. And we crossed the border into Blytheville, Arkansas.
Yes.
And the car broke down. This is like late on a Saturday, like 3 o'clock.
I haven't heard Blytheville in so long.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Right. But so the car broke down. We're in Blytheville, Arkansas, like 3-4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. No garages are open. And we're teenagers. We aren't even thinking about the fact that somebody could have like taken us somewhere and killed us. But some very nice gentlemen actually towed us to his barn in Blytheville and fixed the car for us.
That could have been the start of a horror movie, Randy.
Could have. And we're two kids. We don't have any money. I think we wound up giving them like the $50 that we had. But yeah, by 7 o'clock, we're out on the road again, headed to Memphis for the Liberty Bowl. So my experience in Blytheville was very positive, even though the car broke down. Very nice. Arkansan.
Yes.
Arkansan. Yeah,
yes.
Very nice.
And every
Kansas is right there.
And also, it's also fun. Every region has their own like kind of areas that they call things. Like I'm from Tennessee and I'm from Middle Tennessee. And that's a big difference between West and East Tennessee. Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas is a big part of it. And then they have the River Valley, which we also covered as a part of our sports area, which is like Fort Smith, a little bit into Oklahoma. So it's always interesting to kind of learn about different regions and what they call things.
Yeah. If you didn't listen to us on the radio, Brooke is a product of MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University. She's a Gator.
No, they're not the Gators. They're the Raiders. So if you guys remember last season, Middle Tennessee almost beat Mizzou, and it would have sent Mizzou into a tailspin. My alma mater. And Randy was at that game.
Like, really quick qualifier in that sentence there. They did what? They almost. They almost. Do
you not remember that?
No.
Still, it was scary.
No, Brooke, because I remember W's and L's.
Hey, Mizzou has actually lost to MTSU quite a few times,
we don't
especially
need
on
to
your
talk about that.
homecomings.
We don't need to talk about that.
For whatever reason, it did happen. But anyways, Randy was at that game and he took a picture of MTSU's mascot. And then he came on the radio the next day and he took a picture of the mascot. So we saw it in person. And he came on the radio the next day. He was like, yeah, the MTSU Gators, the Blue Gators. I said, the Blue what?
It is very ambiguous.
He said the Gators. I said, no, Blue Raiders. And he's like, what is that? And I said, well, it's a mythical creature like a Pegasus, but blue. And he's like, what? Somehow a Blue Gator would make more sense. I will agree with you than a mythical creature named Pegasus that's a Blue Raider. So yeah, it's the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders. You're wearing our colors right now.
There you go.
Yeah.
Look like a Gator to me.
We'll have to bring up a picture of it one day because it is a very unique mascot. That is for sure. But I like the creativity. I'd rather have a mythical creature than being like the Tigers. I was waiting for a shot.
Like that's not a commonly used one or anything. No one figured out, hey, that's a great one to use.
If you were starting from ground zero, would you not rather pick a mythical creature or the same thing that a lot of people pick?
Go with a Billiken.
Exactly.
That's a mythical creature, right?
That's cool.
Tigers are always cool.
All right.
Tigers are always cool.
We've got a couple of things that we want to get to here before we depart today. We want you to know that we've got a Blues Hub party coming up. Blues fans can join Sports Hub STL, Hot Shot Sports Bar and Grill, and DraftKings for our first Blues Hub watch party. And while you're watching Thursday night's Blues game on television, log on to sportshubstl.com where you'll find Andy Strickland, Cam Jansen, Jamal Mayers, and other special guests as they watch the game along with you and take your questions and comments as the Blues play at Pittsburgh. It all happens Thursday night starting just before puck drop at 6, a Blues Hub second screen experience where you can hang out virtually with Strick, Cam, Jamal, and other special guests. It's all brought to you by Hot Shot Sports Bar and Grill by DraftKings. Looking forward to that. As the Blues get back in action on Thursday night, you need to tune in to Sports Hub STL.
Yes, and we have a very quick Grim report because I want to talk about NFL free agency. It's starting. I know that things technically don't kick off until Wednesday, but where teams can actually start talking to players and getting that going. But NFL free agency, if you didn't see all the madness yesterday, there is some new quarterbacks within the league, some interesting ones, including the Seahawks signing Sam Darnold to a 3-year, $100.5 million contract.
Correct. Yeah, $100.5
million contract. And you have the Jets signing Justin Fields to a 2-year, $40 million contract, which has a pact for $30 million guarantee. I think it's $55 million guaranteed for Sam Darnold. Congratulations to both of them. I like to see guys getting their payday. Now, which quarterback, though, is in the best situation? I think it's really tough. One, for the Seahawks, that was a great GM move because you're getting Sam Darnold for like $10 million less than you would have with Geno Smith. I think that they're two very similar players, but Sam Darnold looked really great last year, but he also had one of the best wide receivers in the entire league. So is he also a product of having a great receiver? Time will tell, and we'll know now. The Seahawks don't really have another great receiver for him to throw to, though. That's my only issue.
They've got a guy that caught 100 balls last year.
And
Jackson Smith and Jigba. He got 100 balls for like 1,200 yards, and he's really good. They need to. There's some other things that they need to upgrade. Kenneth Walker needs to be healthy. Their running back. The thing is, Kirk Cousins didn't do with Jefferson and Jordan Addison what Darnold did, and Kirk Cousins got $180 million or something, right, from the Falcons. I know a lot of people don't think that Sam Darnold is good because of the last two games that he played. I think that getting back together with Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator there that he was with in San Francisco, I think that can really benefit him. I think this could wind up being a great move for the Seahawks. By the way, one more signing, Brooke, this morning, the Colts have signed Daniel Jones to compete with Anthony Richardson. So, So
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So Daniel Jones gets a 1-year deal for $14 million, kind of the Sam Darnold deal.
Yeah. A prove it contract.
Yep. So that'll be interesting. And then Zach Wilson to the Dolphins.
Oh, okay. These are some very interesting moves. I think you're right. Sam Darnold might be in the best situation. I think it was a great move by the Seahawks. I'm interested in this Justin Fields one, though, too. So you have Tyrod Taylor as your backup. You have Justin being your starting quarterback going into the season. I think this is a great situation for him. I felt like the Bears just tried to destroy him, which is something that they typically do anyways, with especially young quarterbacks at times. And then you had that situation with the Steelers where I thought he was performing pretty well. And then he was put on the back burner for Wilson. Now he's getting kind of, I believe, more of a fair shot.
I think sometimes coaching staffs are set in their ways. Mike Tomlin kind of should be set in his ways, right? Matt Eberflus was. If John Harbaugh was set in his ways, Lamar Jackson wouldn't be what Lamar Jackson is.
Yeah.
And I think that the Jets have a more open-minded coaching staff. They're prepared to appeal to the strengths of Justin Fields. I'm with you 100%. I think getting together with Garrett Wilson, who he was teammates with at Ohio State, helps. He's got a good running game. He's got a good defense. And what they need to do is they need to build an offense to his strengths rather than build an offense to the strengths of somebody like Joe Flacco. You need to understand what you have. I agree with you. I think that Fields is in a really good spot with the Jets.
I feel like the Steelers, too, are in a very interesting situation because you have a lot of talent there, but also I'm just interested to see how that locker room will work, right? Because you add DK Metcalf, who we know can be, what is the best way to describe DK Metcalf? Yeah. And so then you have Wilson still there. And then there's these rumors that maybe the Steelers will add, of all people, Aaron Rodgers into that locker room.
So that's apparently the choice.
Why would Tomlin want all this going on in there? I know he can handle a lot. He's a great coach, but why would you want all that going on in your locker room?
Here's the question. And you have George Pickens is mercurial, right?
Yes.
And you don't have Najee
That's like
Harris
a requirement to be a receiver, basically, with the Steelers.
So you got two free agents out there. You got Wilson and Rodgers, and apparently one's going to land with the Steelers and one's going to land with the Giants. If you're the Steelers and you're a better organization, you're a better spot, I think, than the Giants are. If you were the Steelers, who would you choose between Rodgers and Wilson?
Why don't you just go draft a young quarterback?
Well,
then you need a backup.
They aren't going to get a good one, though. Not where they're picking.
This isn't a great quarterback.
No, it's not.
Draft, is it?
No.
I know as a Titans fan, it's not a great one.
Yeah, right.
That's the thing.
So I actually think that Russell Wilson,
I would pick Wilson,
is a better quarterback for the Steelers too,
especially for Aaron Rodgers. I can't see him improving in any way.
No,
can you?
No, I can't. And
he's a hassle to deal with. I'm sorry. And that's not even political. I know that some people, it feels like nowadays, if you speak out against Aaron Rodgers, somehow that's like a political statement. It's not.
Bro, come on. He has
a lot to
500
deal
pages
with.
of research about the vaccine. So don't question him. Okay.
No,
500 pages.
But it's just funny because he hates media, but then he does a weekly hit with the Pat McAfee show. He's talking about issues with the team pretty publicly. It was really clear that even though he pretty much got his way with the Jets, that he still would just publicly kind of bash them a little bit for their decisions or even question them for the decisions. What organization would be jumping all over that? Please, Titans, do not pick him up, is what I'm saying.
And that's another one that's come up, by the way, is the Titans.
They should not do that. If they do that, I'm going to be done.
But to your point, he would go to his press conferences in New York and they'd say, well, how do we improve the culture here? He'd say, well, we just got to stop the leaks. And then he would go on the Pat McAfee show and talk about his issues, his meetings. I didn't hear from Woody about the coaching change. He would leak stuff on the Pat McAfee show. So it was almost like, well, don't ruin my exclusives. Now, can you imagine Mike Tomlin putting up with that?
I could not. Like, why would he want to? Is what I'm saying. Is like, why exactly would he want to?
And he's done a great job with behind the scenes craziness with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell and stuff like that.
And also, Aaron Rodgers is
so
old.
Front and center.
No, he's old. He's obviously not back to whatever, even with his ayahuasca trips, not back to what he needs to be and what he was in the past. I think that I don't know what team would jump all over that. And it's not even like he's great at helping usher in a new young quarterback. We saw what happened with him with the Packers. I mean, like there's like a lot of jealousy that happens with him there. And that might have to be, he has spoken out in the past about how Favre didn't exactly welcome him into the organization, and maybe that's him just kind of continuing that old school thought of, well, it happened to me, I'm going to do it to you too. But he's not a great quarterback too to kind of help you usher in a new quarterback.
Here's a statistic for you. From 2004 to 2021, when Ben Roethlisberger was in Pittsburgh as their starting quarterback, they had 9 different starting quarterbacks in 18 years. And obviously he started most of them. Since he left in 2 years, they've had Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, Justin Fields, and Russell Wilson. They've had 5 starting quarterbacks in 2 years after having 9 in 18 years. I'll tell you what, NFL fans, if you have a great quarterback on your team, don't take him for granted. Enjoy what you have and don't be complaining about it.
Yes. Also, for the Dallas Cowboys fans out there, I'm sure that you're waiting for your big free agency news.
They made a move.
Yeah. They were able to agree to terms with an extension with their long snapper. Yes, Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is on this right now. Hey, don't worry, Dallas Cowboys fans. If you're a Dallas fan in general, just a Dallas sports fan, at least you have the Mavs.
I think. Oh man.
I'm taking city shots now.
You are
taking
that's
shots
great.
at cities.
Oh, that's fun. There was another Cowboy. Hold on, there was another Cowboy signing. They signed like somebody's old defensive tackle or something like that. I'm scrolling here. I'm scrolling through the time. Oh, Solomon Thomas, former 49er high pick who had been with the Jets. Solomon Thomas is now a member of the Cowboys. Congratulations.
Wow. Big moves, Jerry.
Big moves.
Jera.
There we go.
So that is your Grim Report. We'll continue to watch NFL free agency, and I'm expecting even more crazy stuff today.
I would think so. All right. Is there anything overarching? By the way, the other receivers, it's not a really dynamic receiver room. I brought up Jackson Smith and Jigba, who will probably be triple teamed unless they get some more receivers.
Oh, you're talking about Seattle? For the Seahawks? Yeah. He needs more weapons.
Yeah. The other receivers are Derek Young, who is a 7th rounder in 22, and Jake Bobo, the well-known and prolific Jake Bobo.
Of course.
And
how
then,
could we forget?
John Reese Plumlee and Cody White. So those are members of the Seahawks receiving corps. And their tight end is Noah Fant. Is our buddy Drew Lock a free agent? I think he might be.
Where is Drew? That's a good question.
He should sign somewhere.
Yeah. He needs a redemption arc. He's had his moments.
Yeah. I'm amazed. And we can use this as our overarching. There have been several years where on the first couple of days of NFL free agency, I've been walking through airports and everybody is talking about NFL free agency. Is this not incredible? And is this not something that baseball needs to take note of? That everybody in the world is talking about your sport a month after you played your last game.
There's never a dull moment in the NFL. No. I feel like it's because you know what it is. They embrace the drama of it all.
They do.
And that a lot of other leagues, I think that they want to not do that. And I understand it can get a little bit too much, but it's like a perfect amount of drama that they embrace, where there's just always something. There's always storylines. And honestly, I think a lot of it has to do too with, it feels like every team has more of a shot. I know that more than others, but it feels like every team has a shot because you have a salary floor and cap.
Yeah. Yep. And you see teams bounce back. We see it on a regular basis that, well, we saw it here in St. Louis with Rams going from 4-12 to winning the Super Bowl, but the Commanders this year, right?
Exactly.
We see it all the time, and that gives everybody hope without question.
Just one quick thing too for overarching. This is a little off subject, but you mentioned airports. Did you guys see the breaking news this morning?
I hate this.
Okay, breaking news coming in. Southwest ends their free checked bags policy.
Can I say this right now? If you're complaining about this, it's on you. Your ability to pack for trips is a skill issue, and you shouldn't be having to check bags anyway. You get a carry-on and a personal bag. If you can't get all your clothes for at least a week in there, you need to work on your packing skills.
Surprised to hear a golfer saying this.
I don't pay for golf outside of St. Louis.
Oh, okay.
You know what greens fees are in any other state? One of my friends are like, let's go on a golf trip. We're going to do 3 rounds. The greens fees for each round averages out to $245 per round. So that's going to be a $1,000 trip. Nope. Thanks, boys.
Well, as somebody who
Catch you next time.
play golf in other outlets of America, I can't, for whatever reason, I can't get my giant golf bag into the overhead on the plane.
Yeah, I'm not a big golf trip guy.
Yeah,
I like playing golf. I've gotten into that, but the trip factor, greens fees are insane.
But still, I mean, like, that's one of the beauty. I mean, that is the beauty of Southwest, right? Is because they didn't charge. So now Southwest will charge for checked bags. I absolutely hate it.
How much?
I don't know. I will look that up for you.
On the other airlines, right?
Yes, and it can get expensive. It really can.
You got to get on that. You got to get that rewards card, because you're still. If you have a rewards card, you're like the Rapid Rewards, I think it is, or the basic, or one of the other ones. Well, yeah, I mean, it is a credit card, but I mean, it's what it is. If you get the Southwest credit card, apparently you're still good on that. My bigger thing is I'm mainly joking, because what Southwest is doing sucks, because they're also changing their seating policy, which is a much bigger deal in my opinion. And just the fact of the matter is, their flights have gotten pricier, and their destinations have not gotten better, and their connecting flights and the timing has gotten worse. And all while these things for people are making them crappier. And so that's unfortunate. It's just like flying gets pricier and then worse at the same time, and I don't understand how we keep getting screwed in as the consumers.
Well, and also flying has become scarier, because they're having all these weird things happening. And then there was a lady just walking around naked, like for 25 minutes on a plane. I think it was Houston. Oh, it was Houston to something, and she was going up and down the aisles. It took 25 minutes, just completely naked.
I wonder if like that
just
was
naked.
James,
the way you say it is hilarious.
I wonder if James Harden was naked. On that plane.
She was naked, and everybody else was afraid. And so
naked and afraid. There we go. That's naked and afraid.
But it's like things are getting like weirder with planes, and so now you're going to also make it even more expensive. Now, maybe I'm in like the only person in this as we are like closing out the show. You mentioned the changing the seats policy. I actually don't mind it because of what I just said. That woman being naked on the plane. People are acting crazier and crazier at airports. They are losing their dang minds. And I think that it is helping avoid kind of people arguing with each other and fighting, because in Southwest, there's nothing just like more tense than the whole seat battle. You know,
you're right about that.
That's my one thing, because I had an old couple yell at me when I was coming back.
Like 62?
No, older than that.
Okay.
Yeah. You see, look, I'm not putting you in the old camp. I'm not putting you in the old camp. I'm putting you in the almost old camp. But this was a certified old couple, and I got on the plane. This is for my bachelorette trip, and everybody does it, right? Like where you're kind of saying the seats, but it's not a big deal. Like I will move. And the whole plane, they had the whole plane to choose, open aisles, literally an aisle to themselves. This couple looks at me and they're like, "Are you saving a seat?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I mean, if I can, like my friend, she's literally in the group right after me." And they're like, "You can't do that. You can't do that.
What a bunch
You
of
need to get that. We're going to sit in this. I said, there's open seats all around. Even the flight attendant was like, there's literally, you're holding up the line of people trying to get on. And they're like, but yeah, this is wrong. You need to move. And I said, well, then I'm not sitting with you. So then just take my aisle, like just take my whole seat aisle. Like that was like the weirdest. You're just picking a fight but then people are like coming just hot and bothered to airports now. Like what is happening to you? Like, remember when we had decorum for planes? Like I saw pictures back in the heydays of like when people were first on planes and they were wearing suits.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, we did not have a polite society.
Like no, people are coming.
People, like you said, it's actually I think more old people are just come on. Let's all be a little bit more courteous, shall we? Let's open doors for people and allow people
say thank you, please, all that stuff.
Allow people to save entire rows on airplanes.
Well, I wasn't doing that though. Like literally they could have had an aisle to themselves. Like they just wanted to sit next to me and they were angry that I wouldn't let them. Like, is that what happened?
Grimsley, for God's sakes.
I'm not that exciting of a person. I'm really not.
Matthew, who do we got on the show tomorrow?
X.
Tomorrow we have Xavier Scruggs.
Oh, that'll be fun. Looking forward to that at 10:20.
Give it to you.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't sing songs. I forgot.
No, I think that one was okay.
I think that was you have proprietary rights. I think you made that song up.
It was quiet enough. You were kind of off mic.
It was
a little bit of a change. I think you did enough changes. Now you're getting a little bit too accurate.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're getting 2 on B.
R.I.P.
Yeah. Who
didn't he pass away?
Who bit the dust? Who capitulated?
Was it DMX? Or am I just imagining that?
DMZ? Is he? What about Ty is still alive, right?
I like how we were like trying to figure this out live on air.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I forgot DMX passed away.
I told you.
No.
April 9th, 2021. I mean, that was the second. Yeah, that was the second spring of COVID. Things were still kind of in the throes.
You see, I'm not trying to. I knew that he passed away.
The really rare rapper that didn't get shot.
Randy.
I think he had a heart attack or something that.
Poor fella.
I believe. Yeah.
All right. A great job by
the note to end on. Thanks, Brooke.
Sorry.
It always
hope you don't have a heart attack.
It always comes back to death with her.
That needs to be with you. You're making me do this. You've made me this way.
Great job by our producer, audio, video engineer, Matthew Rocchio. Thank you, sir. How about the way these batteries are working for the cameras?
They're great. Yeah, an AC adapter. Sometimes I'm not great at like technical savvy words, but I can figure things out. That's
and you did.
I did. Yeah. I did figure out how to make these cameras last. So if you guys tuned in earlier in some of our shows when we just started a few weeks ago, the camera would die and Brooke figured it out.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
A great job. Did you have fun today?
Yes.
All right. That's Brooke. I'm Randy. Thank you very much for joining us on the Randy Karraker Show featuring Brooke Grimsley with Matthew Rocchio. Don't forget Cards Hub 365 this afternoon at 3 right here on Sports Hub STL. And we will see you tomorrow. Have a terrific Taco Tuesday, everybody.